The center of consciousness is the most essential thing to spiritual growth. If you cannot sit consciously, you can't do anything. You just become reaction to what's happening around you. You're like a machine. Somebody says something, you react. You see something, you react. This may seem natural and spontaneous, but in truth, it's all pre-programmed. And there's nothing natural or spontaneous about reaction. It is just reaction. So the first stage in any spiritual progress is the ability to stay centered and be present in between action and reaction. This work of keeping the center, keeping the consciousness, is begun in meditation, but it's really practiced in daily life. It is possible to remain conscious every moment, all day. From the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep, do not doubt that it is possible to constantly, effortlessly be aware of what is happening outside of you, what are the reactions that it is hitting and responding inside of you, and you can see what impulses and urges would have driven you to say or do behavior or reaction. But you're perfectly capable of sitting there, breathing, relaxing, and just being aware that this is the dance of creation. Reacting to the environment outside of you keeps you in the karmic patterns of the way that you were. There is a reason that certain stimuli cause certain tendencies of reaction. Do not call this natural. That is a misuse of the word natural. Nowadays, when we say it's natural, it spontaneously came up in me, it was what I felt really, somehow we place something holy on that. It's your karmic patterns. If a certain stimuli happens, almost everyone in this room will have a different reaction. There are some, like a lion jumps out or something, we all tend to have the same reaction, all right? But most stimuli that happen during the course of a day, we think that everybody is having the same reaction. You're crazy. If you have a certain fear due to past experiences and somebody happens to touch it inadvertently, whatever, they say a certain thing, they act a certain way, they stand a little too close, they take a step back when you're trying to talk to them, even the tiniest little thing, this will hit that past samskara. That will cause a tendency toward reaction, a shift in your energy flow. What happens in there is phenomenal because of the slightest thing that happens outside, it causes this change in your inner being. Your reaction to that will always be in harmony with that pattern. Therefore, you will talk or act or do in accordance to that pattern, and you will then set into motion behavior that will cause the other person to respond in accordance to your response, and you are creating your environment outside in accordance to your environment inside. So there is no work on yourself until you can remain conscious. You have to do whatever you can do, meditate, anything that you possibly can do, just to be able to remain conscious during the course of every single interaction of every single day. There is never a reason to lose your center. No matter what anybody does, no matter what happens to you, you have to be capable of knowing that it is happening to you. The more conscious you get in the beginning, the more you think you're slipping on the path. Why? Because you start seeing all this stuff that you never saw before. You start seeing all these reactive tendencies. What in the world is going on inside of me? How did I get so ugly? How did I get so scared? How did I get so fearful? How did I get so reactive? This yoga is messing me up. That's what people tend to feel. They feel all that reaction happen inside of them, and they think they're going the wrong way. Eventually, you catch on that this has been going on inside of you your whole life, and you have been acting accordingly based on how your mother treated you, your father treated you, anything that happened in your whole life. You're just responding and reacting accordingly. I think the beginning of spirituality is self-discipline. That's what all the masters taught. It's even the heart of the religious teachings, is until you can master yourself, you have no possibility of going any deeper. So you're taught to fast. There's periods of fasting. There's periods of silence. There's so many different things that are taught. They have no meaning in and of themselves. There's no great thing in not eating. There's no great thing in not talking. It is the ability to not eat. It is the ability to not talk when you want to talk. It is the ability to sit in the presence of people when you're uncomfortable and watch that silent period that happens when nobody's talking and your heart gets all weird and your stomach gets weird and your mind starts thinking a mile a minute of things to say that will start a conversation up, and you start noticing how uncomfortable you are. Spirituality is being comfortable in that uncomfortable state. Spirituality is the ability to not talk when you want to talk, because you see that the impetus for any words that you would say are completely impure. You are coming from a place of insecurity. And therefore, anything that you say is not a conversation worth having, because it's just being said for the wrong reason. And so you learn to practice the disciplines. It's essential to be able to do this, to where when you most want to talk because you're uncomfortable, you keep your mouth shut. When you most want something because it caused a reaction inside of you, when somebody said something, you most want them to say they're sorry, or they better take it back, or say that they didn't mean it. Every single thing inside of you is burning and just wants to do something about it. Spirituality is the ability to do nothing about it. If that's what you do, is start a conversation when you feel uncomfortable, not walk into a room because you're afraid people will notice you. If somebody says something that you don't like, you find ways to write or say or do things to get them to be sorry so they'll never say it again. In other words, if you manipulate your environment so that you're feeling okay, that is the epitome of working at the surface. What's going to change? You've by definition said, not me. I'm not going to change. These energies are going to react the way that they react. I'm going to honor them as though they were something holy. And what's going to change is you. You're going to change your attitude. You're going to change how you talk to me. You're going to change when you come. You're going to change when you go. Every single person and thing around me is going to go through some serious change, aren't they? And I'm going to make sure that they do. I'm going to let them know that they are not to talk to me that way. I'm going to let them know that I will not tolerate this, that this should not be this way, that this is wrong. I'm going to argue with them. I'm going to prove it to them, whatever it is. In other words, nothing in here is saying, I will change. Everything in here is saying, I will not change. I am fine the way I am. In fact, I'm the highest one around here. Okay? I'm the one who's clear. I have it right. And everything out there is to change. Why? Just get it straight what you're saying, so that I don't have to change. When you want to grow, you wake up and you realize growth is about me changing. It is not about me changing my environment. It is about my environment changing me. If I want to change, I have to at least work with these energies that react inside of me. Now you get the first step down. And we've talked about before, I don't think there's any way to take that step inside until you stop putzing with the outside. You have to be willing, like I said, to not eat when you want to eat, to be silent when you want to talk. The stronger the impulses, the more fun it is. And you get tremendously strong within yourself to realize that you're the captain of your own ship. You must take control over these reactive energies that are inside of you. So the first step of working at the deeper parts inside of you is to not go with yourself. Under what situations should you go with yourself? When you decide that you don't want to grow. When you decide you're tired of growing and you want to stay the way you are, and you really want these energies to be disturbing you inside, then give them the right to run your life and dump on somebody. Because that's what you're doing. I can't handle the energy inside of me, and you're going to be sorry that you're anywhere near me. Not to mention that I can blame it on you. That I can in some way, shape, or form say, you made me feel this way. Therefore, these are your energies, not mine, and I'm going to let you know what they feel like. I know that I'm full of it. All right? I see where I'm coming from, and I don't want to be that person. I will not be that person. That is not denial. You're not suppressing. That is called consciousness, awareness. And you are using your willpower in order to at least start an environment of transformation. So when you want out, you will do this. If you don't want out, you will find 1,000 million excuses not to do it. And don't you dare go anywhere else when you're finding excuses not to do it and expect someone to do it for you or teach you how to do it or come up with some magic technique that's going to make it so you don't have to do it. You have to want out more than you want to make it be comfortable for yourself. So you keep your mouth shut, and now what happens? Now you begin to work deeper inside of you. And what you end up with is you end up working with yourself. Never is the work with other people. If you work with yourself, you will change the vibrations all around you, and everybody will grow, not just you. If you decide that you're right and others are wrong, and you use these energies inside of you to change other people, wait till you see what happens. Nobody changes. All you do is fight. You end up fighting with people. There is no reason to fight. Lao Tzu says, a wise man never argues. For what purpose? Why would you argue? The only reason you would argue is because the energies inside of you are making you do it. They are causing so much disturbance inside of you that you have to end this conversation through being right or through winning or by getting an apology. And so you end up fighting outside because in reality you're fighting inside. So the work starts when you stop doing this with the outside, when you're willing to own everything that's going on inside of you as yours, and you're not rationalizing or blaming or doing anything outside. Do you see that? Now you can begin to work at a deeper level. What happens if you manage to attain that state? That every time these reactive energies try to force you to do something, you're conscious and you remain centered within yourself. Your mind says totally weird things, different than anybody else's, all right? But it doesn't know that. And it literally thinks that it is in there saying the same thing that everybody else's mind is saying. Watch how you think that. You assume that everybody's the same as yours. You've never been in anybody else's, so how do you know? All right? And you're inside of yours so much, that's the only frame of reference that you have. So now you watch these reactive energies, you see that the mind is trying to convince you to do something. The mind wants to do something to make these energies get calmer. You have to learn to not do this. You learn to be able to sit there consciously, even though the mind is saying all this, and you start to then notice that there are feelings underneath all of this that were causing the mind to do it and would have caused the actions to happen. Notice every step you're taking, the way to take the step to the root is by not operating at the level in front of it. If you operate at the level in front of it, then that's where the energy goes. You either exercise through action or what you do with your mind. I'll spend 1 second. You know, the main thing people do with their minds is they rationalize. You're a conscious being. You should be able to work with your energies. They shouldn't get stuck inside of you and cause all this trouble. So the first thing you will see is that the easiest way to release the disturbed energies is through disturbing the environment around you. Second is through playing this mind game of finding ways to think about it that makes it feel better. Anybody ever do that? You just find ways to think about it that Somehow, if you think about it just right, then it all gets quiet, doesn't it? You are rationalizing thoughts so that the energies get balanced. If you're on a spiritual path, they're very much like the ones I just told you. That if you're disturbed by something, you're jealous, somebody did something, you feel jealous, you find so many different clothes to put on. So you say things like, it's his karma, let God take care of it, he'll find out. And by not reacting, I'm being so good, this is so unbelievable. Like I said, I never thought I could do such a thing. God will be so pleased with me. Someday he'll see how good I am. He can't see now, all right? But I'll stand by him and I'll do this. And it says all this stuff. And what it does, if it says just the right thing in just the right way, all of a sudden it feels much better. If you can sit in that heart when it's throwing these things up at you and not do anything, remember I said consciousness was the whole thing. Now you're sitting here watching this stuff burn in your heart. You don't do anything. You just sit there. The next step back is where you want to be. Because the next step beyond the heart is the witness. Nothing's left to watch anymore except the watcher. And you will find yourself more and more being the being who is aware of this process of reaction, until eventually you will never react again. You don't ever go with reactive energies. You permit energies to unfold in their own time, in their own way. That is the definition of non-reactive. You permit energies to unfold in their own way, at their own pace, in their own course. You let them go where they must go and not go where they don't go. And what will happen is eventually you will come to peace, because you will realize that all these reactive energies were not necessary, that all that's happening is the universe is unfolding and you have the honor of being aware of it. And there's no reason to bring all of your past fears to the party. So the working at the root is to sit within the consciousness and let the dance of life pass through you. And if you do this, what happens to you is phenomenal. The state of peace, of joy, of serenity, as well as the grace that happens all around you, because you're permitting God to do God's thing. We say, not my will, but thy will. I wonder who's willing to live that. The reason people don't see that is because what is happening is God's will. How hard is that to digest? What is happening is God's will. Whose else's will did you think it was? There is only God. All that there is in the universe is your consciousness, God, and what's left of you. And what's happening is God is happening, and you're reacting, and your consciousness is losing its center. When you let go of you, there's nothing but God and consciousness. And like I said, that's when the miracles take place. Spirituality is not so complicated. It doesn't take a million techniques. It doesn't take books upon books upon books. All it takes is the willingness to remain conscious and centered and to not go with the reactive energies when they come up inside of you. And if your mind is even asking, how do I know if these are the reactive energies? Then you don't want out yet. Because it is so obvious that these energies are jumping up inside of you and causing these actions that it's impossible for me to believe that you don't know what's happening. It's just that you don't want to let go of this one. And so you find reasons that this one's different. And then you say it's not reactive. I'm doing what I should be doing because the other person was wrong, and you go to this whole thing.